You truly want to become a millionaire? Most people are not to that point yet. They want to become millionaires, but they're not quite sure how to get there. And they're always talking about the next thing, and they're going to do day trading, and they're going to do crypto, and they're going to invest in real estate. It's like, listen, there is a way for you to do those things. Absolutely. But you truly want to increase your skills and your ability to make income, start focusing on how you can impact other people's lives. And you can do that through leadership. And there's no skipping over the work that's going to be necessary for you to become a leader, because you got to have credibility as a leader. And if you think you're leading, but nobody's following you, you're just going for a fucking walk, buddy.
We got a special guest. We got Mr. Jefferson Rogers. He is the CEO of JKR Windows. He is a father of 3. He's a motorcycle racer, a dirt bike racer. He's a weightlifter, and I'm excited to learn from him today. I also got my co-host, Jason Hershey. So he's here and in the present, fresh off energy drinks. We're going 2 hours strong.
Yeah, well, a couple days strong, actually.
Oh, I thought you were saying a few hours. So we got...
It feels like a couple hours.
We got the fresh Jason Hershey here with no energy drinks. So,
I don't think I drank one yesterday. Yeah, anyway, carry on.
You can tell it's fresh on his mind.
Yeah, it's at the top of things I want.
And 24 hours sober. We'll get you your chip.
Yeah, please do.
But I met Jefferson mainly through mutual friends, social media. I just followed Jefferson. I think he followed me back, and actually got to meet Jefferson because I ride dirt bikes as well. And so we got to go and rip the dirt bike track down in Mesquite one day. One thing that I really admire about Jefferson is, like, if you spend enough time around, or you spend 2 minutes with him, you'll feel calmer. Like, he just has this natural aura of kind of like this peace and certainty that he carries with him, and he carries that into the room. So that's one thing I really like about you. I think it's pretty unique. When I first met you, I was like, something's different about this guy, and that was kind of the thing that I took away. So I appreciate that about you. I'm excited to dive into your story and to learn more about you. So welcome.
Thanks. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here with you boys on the very first ever Arrows Out podcast. I love the name, by the way.
Thank you. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Grew up here in southern Utah, right?
I did. Yep. Born and raised St. George, Utah. Oldest of 4 boys. We all have the same initials, JKR. That's where I came up with the name for my business, JKR Windows.
I like it.
And incredible upbringing. You know, we didn't have a lot when I was a kid, but I didn't know it because that was all that I knew, and had just a great childhood, riding bikes and motorcycles, and, you know, back in the days where you could just kind of do whatever you wanted, and parents trusted that we were doing smart things and we'd be back before the street lights came on. It's not so much like that anymore. I don't trust my kids hardly to go down the street without me following them. It's like, try not to let them know that I'm following them.
Yeah.
But we had it good, man. My dad's a firefighter and a contractor, and I grew up just around a bunch of badass axe-wielding firefighter dudes and contractors, and grew up building houses from a very young age, and was blessed with a mom that, you know, single mom from the time I was 10 years old, but we were just so active. She was always taking us on adventures and going out in the middle of nowhere to go hiking or to a lake somewhere in an old, like, 1990 Astral van that we could have broke down at any moment, just kind of reflecting back on all the adventures and the incredible parents that I had. And now, you know, taking that into my own experiences as a father and as a husband, and trying to live up to some big expectations of some incredible parents.
Yeah. So you're a successful entrepreneur. JKR is doing awesome stuff. Was that something that's come from did you get that from your mom and your dad? Did you get that, or is that just, where did that come from?
You know what?
Entrepreneurial spirit.
I think it came from it did partially come from my mom and dad, because some of the things that I remember about their financial situation is like, where do you think this money comes from? Money doesn't grow on trees, mister.
Yeah, scarcity mindset.
Scarcity mindset. Yeah. And my parents worked their asses off, but, you know, we didn't have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I was 10 years old, I found my cousin's checkbook, and I went and wrote a check for myself to buy some rollerblade wheels because I didn't have any money. I didn't know how to make money. My parents didn't have enough money to buy me that kind of stuff. So early on, I was willing to take risks to be able to get shit that I wanted.
Yeah.
And
The first example being the check is what you're saying.
And sometimes they were against the law.
Yeah.
And I had many more experiences like that. But, you know, I don't think it hasn't been a part of my family. I got to see it from one of my uncles he was successful, but not necessarily even an entrepreneurial type of guy. He had money. And we went to a family reunion at his house when I was 10 years old, and he had all this cool shit. And I was like, man, how does this guy have all this stuff? And why don't we have it?
Yeah.
So it planted seeds early on and got me curious about what that might look like for me if I followed the traditional path, or how could I do it to be able to really make some big money?
Yeah.
It took me a long time to figure it out.
Yeah, because right now, I mean, I just know you from, you know, JKR. Things are going well. You drive this nice truck. You got the dirt bikes. Like, seems like from the outside looking in, you got your life really, really put together. You're saying it was. I know it wasn't all that way because I read your book. You know, remind me the name of the book. It's red with the arrow. I can't think of the name.
It's all in. Get unstuck, accelerate, and go further faster.
Go to Amazon.com and buy that book right now.
And we just launched it on Audible. So you got to go check it out because I narrated the thing. It turned out so good.
Dude, I hate when the Audible person, like, when it's not the actual author.
Yeah.
When the author reads it, it's like so much better. So that's a good move.
Yep.
So walk us through, like, you're a young kid, you see your uncle, he has all this stuff. You're you know, taking the checkbook from your family to go and buy the rollerblades. You're like, I just want to be rich. What was that journey like, getting from where you were to where you are now? Like, walk me through, like, your process that you've been through.
I mean, I grew up around a bunch of blue collar people. And my dad always taught me work ethic. He taught me attention to detail, all these things that translated into business later on. Mm-hmm. But as I started going down this path and started working alongside some of these guys that have been in the construction industry for 20, 30 years, or being a mechanic for 20, 30 years, and they're like literally the same exact place.
Yeah.
They're just 20 years ahead in their life.
Yeah.
But they had gotten a couple of years experience and then just repeated it their whole life.
Yeah.
And I'm just a naturally curious kind of person, and I ask questions, and you're starting to get a feel for where did these people give up? Where did it go wrong for them?
Yeah.
Because here they are 20 years later, and if I chose to do that same thing, there I would be also.
Right.
So whether it was building houses, I loved building houses.
Mm-hmm.
I was freaking good at it. And it was a sense of accomplishment when you get done with this big ass custom house that you build. It's like, dude, that was incredible.
Yeah.
And I got paid peanuts to build these big ass houses.
Yeah. And you're what, 18 at this point, or are you younger?
So yeah, I was framing full time at 18, 19, 20, all the way until I was 25.
Okay.
Framing full time. So it was 7-8 years, and I had gotten up to $17 an hour. Man, I was living it.
This is in St. George?
It was in St. George, yep.
Yeah.
And then I broke my leg really bad. And I went back to framing a few months later and, trying to walk 2x4 walls. I used to be able to just run around the house, run the roofs and the 2x4 walls, and I was so good at it. I've been doing it my whole life. But I had lost a little bit of my confidence because I got a little hitch in my step with this ankle that I destroyed. And then I went to be a mechanic. I was like, you know what? I don't have to walk any 2x4 walls being a mechanic, and I love working on motorcycles.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go try and be a supercross mechanic and do like a race circuit.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you get exposed to more people that are now, they tried to follow that same path, and they're maybe like an instructor, or they would bring people in and share their experiences working at a dealership or working for a race team. And it's like, man, can I really see myself doing this? For most of them not even making $80,000 a year.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I'm not sure about this. everybody's telling me I should go down this path and follow my passion and do stuff that I'm excited about, but all the stuff I'm excited about ain't going to lead me very far.
Yeah.
And then I had a guy, he came and showed me a sample window one time. So JKR Windows is a company that does replacement windows. And my first exposure was a friend of mine that had gotten involved in doing window cells. And I didn't own a home, and he brought this window to my house to show it to me. And I was like, I mean, what is the point of this? I don't own a house. Like, I couldn't buy these.
Yeah.
He was just excited to show them to me. And I think he was trying to recruit me. But then it was like, for the first time, I could picture myself doing something besides being a mechanic or a carpenter, because I was watching other people have success.
Yeah.
And they didn't seem like they were all that different than me.
Yeah.
And this was a product that I felt like I could get behind.
Yeah.
It was exciting.
Yeah.
And I'd installed hundreds of windows myself, knowing that there's a huge contrast between this product that he just showed me and all the bells and whistles and the quality and the energy efficiency and all the contractor grade windows that I had installed.
Yeah.
So that's what really got me into sales and starting to see myself as somebody who could do it as a career.
So you were doing construction, then you became a mechanic, and then so you never sold alarms or anything. You just got right into window sales.
That's it.
Right into window. How? Because you don't have any sales background, right? You're just a technician. You're a mechanic. You're a framer.
Mm-hmm.
So you haven't been trained in like communication. So how was it? Did it come natural for you to like sell, or was it like kind of like you went through the ringer to learn how to be a good salesperson?
Yes, that one.
Went through the ringer.
I went through the ringer, buddy. Because the day that I showed up to go and knock my first door,
Mm-hmm.
I had just quit my job.
Mm-hmm.
I'd gotten in a wreck, and I got in this huge falling out with my uncle, who I was working for at the time. And I say that I quit, but I'm pretty sure I got fired. Because I got fired from every job that I ever had.
Why'd you get fired? Like, what'd you do? Just asshole bosses or what?
No, I mean, my he's a great dude. He's still one of my mentors.
Yeah.
But I wrecked his truck. And then I brought it back, and I tried to blame the other guy, and he's like, dude, you got to take some responsibility. It's like, I heard the story. The guy was right there watching you. Take some responsibility. It was your fault. It's like, no, it wasn't. He ran into me. And then he said some stuff that I didn't agree with, and I got pissed, and I like wiped a bunch of shit off his table and told him to F off. And he said, well, you probably shouldn't come back at this, the way you're going to treat people around here. So I had a problem. I had kind of a problem with
more
authority.
testosterone than you know what to do with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had not only that, but I struggled with accountability and taking ownership for my shit.
Yeah.
So the first day I went to knock doors, I had long, greasy hair. I'd been growing my hair out for a while. Black. I still got black shit under my fingernails. I'm always working on something. But I had no experience.
Yeah.
And I thought that my good looks and charisma was going to help me in sales. And that like a process and a script that's not really going to be relevant for me. I know what I'm doing here. And I got my freaking teeth kicked in, dude.
Yeah.
And I didn't have very good examples either, because the very first guy that I ever knocked doors with didn't have a process, and he was essentially using his good looks and charisma to see success. And I was like, well, frick, if this guy can do it. And he wasn't giving me a very good example, because he had no process. There was no script. And it took me a long time to start making money, but I was committed.
Yeah.
I'd just gotten fired from my job, and I was committed. I had a wife, and I had a couple of kids, and I got to provide for these guys.
Yeah.
So it took me a long time to start to get some momentum and start to make some sales. And I had used up all my credit cards and borrowed money from my in-laws before I ever started getting it figured out.
Yeah. What was like the thing that taught you? Like, what was like kind of the moment when you felt like, okay, I got this figured out? Like, you're maxed out on your credit cards. You're kind of in a bad position. What was the lesson that you had to learn in order to get out of that?
Well, I think that I started to learn the importance of having a process.
Yeah.
That it wasn't just going to be able to, I wasn't going to be able to wing it this time.
Yeah.
I think both of you guys can relate to this, that a lot of times we have just these natural abilities, And we've got this string of successes in our lives that for the most part, we haven't had to put a ton of effort into. And I had always had that. Like I was good at almost everything that I'd ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And sales, I was hoping was going to be the same, but it wasn't. And then it was disappointing. And then you go through these ups and downs with like blaming outside circumstances and blaming the customer and blaming the process and leadership and product. I blamed everything else in the world before I finally started just taking some ownership. Like, okay, I think it's actually me. So
was there like an event where it's like you kind of look in the mirror like, holy shit, like this is just like a pattern in my life. Like I wrecked my uncle's truck. I don't take ownership for that. I blame the customers that I'm not selling. You know, was there like a moment where it was like you just get smacked, your ego's bruised, and you're like, damn, it's actually like it's River's fault. It's Jefferson. You know, it's my fault.
Yeah.
It's not. Was there a moment like that?
I think there was a lot of them. The one thing that sticks out was that same uncle that fired me. I called back and I asked him if he'd have me back.
Was that hard?
Oh yeah, dude.
Had to swallow pride.
I was completely broke. I was not having any success, and I knew that I could go back there and at least have enough to pay my bills because that's what I was doing before. And I might have to take a step back and patch things up and swallow my pride. But I tried to leave the door open. I had a plan B. Mm-hmm. And he said, oh, yeah, you know I love you, man. I'll have you back anytime. But I remember specifically that I was justifying my lack of results and blaming those other things. And I was blaming my leadership and our lack of process, and I was blaming the product and the neighborhoods. And I was, I remember myself talking through all of these justifications, and at the end of the conversation, it still was like, you ever remember just silly stuff like that and wonder why you remember it? Mm-hmm. There's so many things that have happened. That was 14 years ago or wherever it was. Actually, it was 2014, so it was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. But I remember it because it stuck out. It didn't align with my core values and who I knew I wanted to be, and the true version of myself that's taking responsibility and putting in the work and willing to do hard shit. And I wasn't doing any of those things. Mm-hmm. So I remember that. And after that is when it started to sink in, and putting in the work and getting the repetitions in with the script and sticking with the process started to happen a little bit more often. And this still took me forever after that. But I didn't want to be the person that made excuses. I wanted to take responsibility for my shit and go put in the work that was going to be necessary for me to succeed. Mm-hmm. And it still was a lot of work to do after that, but those were just kind of the beginning stages of starting to become aware that when you got to pay attention to that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. It will happen in your life, and you'll remember silly things for no apparent reason. But as you go back and reflect on those, there's a reason why. Because it's either something that somebody else did that didn't align with your values, that just pissed you off, or something that you're doing to yourself that didn't align with your values, and it's going to help you kind of point out the things that are important to you. Mm-hmm.
So you went back to work for your uncle.
I never did go back.
You didn't go back. So you just kept on selling.
I kept the door open, but I wanted to make it work.
Yeah.
I was just scared.
Yeah. So then you learned how to sell a couple of windows. Then like everything else was just smooth sailing, or like what was that process?
No.
Like I want to get into like you told some funny stories in that book. I want to hear driving the truck down the canyon, like walking barefoot. These stories I'm like laughing because I'm like, look, it wasn't funny at the time, I'm sure. No. But looking back now, like he figured it out. So it's like, okay, that was his process to get to where he is. But it's like I just think so many. Every successful person that I've met, if I've really gotten to know their story, getting to know Jason's story, getting to know like any person who has had success, there's like a lot of shit behind it. Like a lot of like you just got to go through the mud, and some people's mud and the rough times is different than others. But I just love that stuff because it's like it'd be so easy to look at you now. You're handsome, you got your built, you got the family, you got the money. You got a successful company that you're passionate about, and like that guy's never had struggle today in Jefferson. He's in a golf cart, dude. He's good to go. You know what I mean? So it's like I want to hear like the story of like, man, like the process that you had to go through to really what I'm getting at is the process to master yourself. It seemed more like than really to master yourselves. Of like, no, I need to master my mind. I need to master my heart and get my emotions under control and get, substances under control,
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind sharing.
I think that's the biggest one. And everybody struggles with some type of an addiction. And sometimes they're innocent addictions, and sometimes they have a bigger impact. Like for me, it was the alcohol from a very early age.
Yeah.
And I smoked weed. Like, oh my God. From the time I was 14, I picked it up and I enjoyed it. And then I just started hanging around with people that had it.
Yeah.
And then it just became this habit, even though every time I smoked, I wasn't proud of it.
Yeah.
And who I became, and even like the look on my face. If you were to take a picture of me 5 minutes apart after I just smoked, I look like a different person.
Yeah.
And I was ashamed of it. And so I carried that shame with me all those freaking years. And if you can imagine the weight that shame that you carry with you when you've got that shame on your shoulders. And I'm sure you guys have felt it in one way or another for yourself. But dude, it was 20 years.
Yeah.
Of hiding these things because I wasn't proud of them.
Yeah.
And then I knew that for me to truly reach my potential as a father, as a husband, as a communicator, as a lover of people, and just wanting to be entertaining, it was not going to include anything to do with these substances.
Yeah.
So those were some tough conversations I had to have with myself, because my life had kind of come to a point where everything revolved around fitting in those things, all my vices, whether it was drinking in the evenings or I'd wake and bake, smoke some weed in the morning, and now I know I've got to wait 2 or 3 hours before I can freaking do anything because I'm going to be worthless. And I don't want anybody to see me with my eyes as red as they are.
Yeah.
And my whole life freaking revolved around it.
So you're selling windows and you're still doing all this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you're still able to find some success while doing it.
I mean, not a lot.
But enough to
But enough to justify it.
Yeah.
Because the last 2 years, I think I went backwards in my last year when I was still smoking weed. But I think I made like $85,000 in my second year doing window sales.
Yeah.
I was pretty stoked. Making my own schedule, made $85,000.
Yeah, made it.
Had a good tax person, so I didn't pay much in taxes. I'd made it, man. I was working towards that $100,000 goal. I was going to hit it the next year. But along with all the extra money came these justifications to smoke and drink even more, because now I could afford the good stuff, man. I started drinking whiskey with my friends, and we were going out partying in Scottsdale and taking trips to, all these places that were just going to get me in trouble. So then I made $75,000 the next year. And the last thing, like the very lowest of the lows to cap it all off, was that story I talked about at the concert. It was my son's birthday. It was the day of my son's birthday. The next day we were doing a birthday party. It was also my brother's anniversary is on my son's birthday. So I went to a concert with my brother and his wife, and I really don't even remember who else was there. Actually, I remember seeing a picture. So it was another one of my friends. I was so drunk that day. I don't remember anything.
Yeah.
I started drinking at 10 a.m. with my younger brother playing golf, and then we went to the concert. I drank all day, and then to cap it off, the last drink I had, my wife said I was carrying a beer, and then I had a water bottle full of vodka in my back pocket, and then I just poured the rest of the vodka into my beer and chugged it. And I was so out of it.
It's probably a good thing we weren't hanging out together at that time.
I was trouble, man. I was trouble.
So what year did you quit drinking?
That was 2018.
2018?
Yep. So that was September 2017 of that concert. And it was a low, shameful time. I ended up headbutting a guy that night. I got chased by the police. I ditched my car and ran. They didn't catch me that night, but I obviously got an assault charge because they had my license plate and they tracked me down. If I would have just ran and not got in my truck, they wouldn't have known it was me. I thought all this later, but I was too drunk to have any decent thoughts at that point in time.
Yeah.
But then I had my son's birthday party the next morning.
Yeah.
And I was so freaking hungover. My wife dragged me along to the birthday party, and I just slept on a bench. I don't even remember anything. And it was, I didn't align with who I wanted to be, the example that I wanted to be for my kids.
Yeah.
Who are now getting older. That was, I think, his 12th birthday party, and when I was 12, I was pretty freaking aware of shit that was going on around me.
Yeah.
And I'm an example of this young man that's going to turn out to be some kind of his interpretation of what his dad was.
Right.
So 2 months after that, I joined a mentor program, started getting around some successful people for really the first time.
Yeah. And
started to see what was possible. And these people are having success in their own industries and things, but they didn't seem like, it was again this perspective that these people aren't anything special. They don't seem like they're anything special.
Right.
And why not me?
Why not you? I think quitting substances is so important. Like, I think especially for young kids when they're 18, or this is my experience when I was, 20, 21. It's like everybody just go hang out. I would smoke weed, drink, and we would just, and I was still I was selling solar at the time, but I remember I would just I was sitting in the back of the truck and we're all kind of drunk and high and we're driving around, probably shouldn't be. And I just remember thinking this is it, huh? This is the good times that we're having. Oh. And I was just like, this is, I just felt so hollow. And I got into a little bit more aggressive partying, I was doing cocaine and MDMA and just kind of getting after it and psychedelics. And I stopped kind of hanging out with those people. And I tell this to Jason all the time. I'm like, if I would have kept on doing that, there is no chance of my life would be where it is today. I wouldn't be married to my wife. I wouldn't have a kid. I wouldn't have and I just think it's so important to get away from those people. Not that they're bad. They're just stuck into it and they need to get out too. But it's so detrimental to kind of get just stuck into this. It's just this weird vortex. And I wasn't addicted or anything. It was just this is what we do on the weekends or at night. And it's just so numbing and just, it kind of makes me cringe thinking about it. I mean, it's fun for a second, but then it's doing it every weekend over and over and over. It's God, you have to be pretty amazing to be successful and be in that, that world, It's
and block out all those feelings that I know all of those people feel.
Yeah.
That this doesn't align. There's some type of shame that goes into hanging around those people.
Oh yeah.
And doing those things. There has to be. It's I'm only going off my own feelings, but that constantly weighed on me. Every time that we're going out to another kegger, or we're in a freaking hotel room and we're just partying our asses off. It's I just didn't ever feel good about it. You're right, it was fun.
Yeah.
Just because everybody else is having fun, it was just normal.
Yeah.
But there's so many other cool ways to have fun besides that dark type of feeling that I got from those moments.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of dark moments for me too, just being I remember this one time we were all doing MDMA and I just this person put on this really dark music Marilyn Manson or something. I don't remember what it was, and we're just high as can be, and I just remember just listening to this. I'm I feel like the devil's in here right now. That's how I'm hanging out with devil energy.
That's some dark shit.
I just this is awful, but my skin feels good. But this is terrible. I'm it's so.
Now, what is MDMA? I've never even heard of this.
It's ecstasy, pure ecstasy.
Is it?
Yeah, it's Molly. That's what they call it. So it just makes,
I have heard of Molly.
Makes you feel really good and all happy and whatever. But it just, it's just opens up this. Anyway, and so I guess the reason why I bring that up is it just is. I think for people that are listening, especially I look at young kids. I just think that's the thing to do after high school is to smoke weed, hang out, just do your thing. It's but you have to get around people that are successful, that are doing things. I know Jason has, and he doesn't have to tell us his story, but he has a history of he had that same transition as you did, And it's knowing Jason, there's no way he'd be where he's at if he kept on doing that stuff. There's just, I don't think
it's damn near impossible.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just, I'm the same as you. I look back and I'm I think it's some weird childhood vision that you have for yourself that almost, for me at least, that's when I was out doing that stuff, is this is not what I had in mind. And then when I had kids, it really it was thicker because I'm you know, my parents got divorced at a young age. My parents weren't partiers, but they were doing some things that I was like, I'll never, you know, I'll never treat my kids this way or that way. And I had great parents. Don't get me wrong. I grew up with money. Like I had a great upbringing. But it was just like, I had this vision of what kind of father I was going to be and what kind of person I was going to be. And it was like, I'd go out and party. And then it's like, I felt the same way as you, as I just like, it's funny because we all say it was fun, but it's like, was it? Because like you really like deep in your core, it wasn't that much.
It's totally
there
out
was
of
like,
alignment.
it was like, yeah, you're like, you're laughing and having a good time, but like in your soul, you felt, I think what you said is like, I always just felt hollow. It was just like, oh, like this is not who I want to be. This is not, when I was younger, it didn't bother me as much. But once I got married and had a family, it was like, man, this is so not who I want to be or who I ever envisioned I would be. And it just was so out of alignment with everything I ever wanted. But it took me a total of 13 years to pull out of it. I quit doing drugs in 2008, but I didn't stop drinking until 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, good for you, dude. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And he's 2 days sober from energy drinks.
And yeah,
so
and I'm not sure, but it's been a few days since I had a C4. So
that's like the biggest thing is I'd wake up in the morning full of shame of just being like, I said what? What did I do?
Mm-hmm.
Like it just embarrassed of like, this is how I acted. Like,
or look at your bank statement. You're like, what? Oh shit, where were we last night? Son of a, how much money did I spend?
Man.
yeah,
Can't wait to explain that to the wife.
So just being full of shame, you know? So what was it hard for you to like transition out of that? Or was it like, no, as soon as I got around the right people, ditched those old friends, it was pretty easy for you?
You know what? It was still a challenge.
Yeah.
And I have people ask me that often because it seems like from the outside looking in that you're right. I get that a lot. Like, dude, when I hear some of your story, it's really hard for me to picture you being that person.
Yeah.
Because I've put a string of successes together over the past 6 years that, you know, it kind of overshadows all of that stuff. And there's a lot of people that knew me from back then. But there was so many seeds planted throughout those years where I was struggling and it wasn't in alignment and I didn't feel good about myself and I knew it wasn't going to lead me down the path that I wanted to go down to be the example to my mom and dad, my brothers, my wife, my kids, that by the time all that did happen and that very last low and the string of events that happened after that, getting involved with the mentor program and starting to get exposed to success on a different level. Mm-hmm. It was like all of those things culminated finally in me getting sober in January of 2018 and then having my 2 best months ever in Windows sales in those following 2 months. And then just deciding to start my own business because I didn't see a future or big time opportunity at that other business on this new trajectory I was on.
Right.
So then once I just refocused all that power, like this fucking superpower that I have of being an addict, I just had to point it in the right direction.
Yeah.
So now it affects my life in other areas. I had a conversation with my wife last night that she is feeling like, you know, I'm just so focused on all these other things and it's taken away from my family now.
Yeah.
And so it puts things back into perspective. Thank you for sharing that with me. It makes me feel like shit, but okay. Like I'm gonna refocus on these other important things and try not to take for granted everything that's important. The reason why I do all this stuff.
Right.
But I've got an addictive nature.
Yeah.
And I was just pointing it in the wrong freaking direction. And I
Yeah.
never felt good about it. It was never aligned. I felt ashamed every time I was doing it. I was with those people. We used to hang out at this place called the Crack Shack. It's like every time I was there, I just felt like shit. Like, what am I doing here hanging out with these people at the Crack Shack?
Right.
This isn't me.
Right.
But once I could point it in the right direction, and you go back and you reflect on how much energy produced the results and where does it come from, it was the same freaking energy that I always had.
Yeah.
I'm the same dude.
Yeah.
All the same tendencies. I just need to get around the right people that were going to encourage me and challenge me and point all that freaking energy in the right direction.
Yeah. Was that Sam Taggart's group? Is that what it was?
No, it was Grant Cardone.
Grant Cardone.
The first one was Grant Cardone. I didn't get involved with Sam until 2020.
So I feel like it's kind of hard nowadays because there's so many gurus now.
There is.
You know what I
There
mean?
is.
It's like, how do you find the right group that will actually inspire you versus like some like fraud that's really just trying to scam you for some cash?
Yeah, you know what? I lucked out with Grant Cardone. I'd read his book, The 10X Rule. My uncle had recommended it to me. Actually, I listened to it on Audible, and he narrates his own books, and he's got so much energy, it freaking fired me up, man.
Yeah.
The 10X Rule. Like, make goals that are 10 times as big as you would normally make them, and then listen to it. Even if you come up halfway short, you're still going to kick some ass. And that's what I needed to hear. I was like, okay, I can get behind this freaking guy. He's not like a SOP, like detail strategy type of guy. He's just like, put in the freaking work, dumbass. Like, it's not rocket science. You just do more than you're doing now, and you'll get better results than you've been getting. And so all I did was just take my goals, and I reverse engineered them, and I just knew how much activity I needed to do on a daily basis, and I just got to work. It's that simple.
Yeah.
You don't have to over-strategize or overthink anything. If you're already in an opportunity where you've got the ability to make great money and you're not, it's your fault, first of all, and now go put together the goals and the action items that are going to be necessary for you to do better or closer to the goals that you have for yourself.
Yeah. I love that, because I do think, like, we manage sales guys, and it's like, it really is that simple. Like, most people just don't put in the amount of effort that's required to go be like a top 10% kind of guy, like the top 5%. It's like they're just doing more than you are.
And you know what's cool about being in a sales environment like that is you don't need to try and go vet out a mentor or a coach or a program like I did, and I freaking lucked into it. But I was also I was 100% committed to making something of it.
Yeah.
And there's something special to be said about spending your last $1,100 and the extra emphasis you put on getting some value out of that. Because I didn't have another $1,100 to go spend on something else, to try something else again. It's like I poured my heart and soul into that thing.
Yeah.
But you can get that same type of opportunity out of joining a team.
Yeah.
And a place that has some winning going on, and some other people who have come from maybe a similar background and have seen some success. And now you get to plug in and ride that wave with people.
Yeah.
And
free.
As long as you got the desire, you get to plug in for free, and they'll actually pay you. You get paid for this?
You can go to jkrwindows.com to apply. So I think what you're saying makes a ton of sense from a sales side. Like, I think it's just more effort. But you're a CEO now. Like, I'm not a CEO, so I don't know. You tell me. But it doesn't really seem like you can just effort your way through it. It seems like you got to be, you got to be zoomed out a little bit on the chessboard and not just be like more input. You have to be a little bit more strategic. So was it hard for you to learn that? What are the things that you've learned regarding strategy and being more, okay, I don't just need to put more effort in. I need to make sure I'm making the right decisions. How do I know I'm making the right decisions? If that makes sense.
It does. It does. And I think we even talked about that the first time we met at the motocross track.
Yeah.
Because I dealt with it myself, and I had to learn the hard way. And luckily, I had people in my life that weren't afraid to tell me how I was showing up and what they saw me putting myself through. And I had a mentor of mine tell me one time that you're not going to be able to hustle yourself to the next level, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, I can see you're a hard worker. You got a lot of enthusiasm, and I can't remember the words that he used, but it was something along the lines of he was trying to puff me up, but also like put things into perspective for me.
Did you ask for that?
No.
That he was willing to be like, this is what I see.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, I think I was asking, but I was asking in a way where I was trying to validate the direction I was already going. And he's like, dude, like, I understand what you're trying to do here, but you're not going to be able to, like, puffing your chest and proving to everybody that you can work harder than them is great at a certain point, but it's only going to get you so far.
Yeah.
What's going to take you to the next level is being smart and developing yourself as a leader and putting systems and processes in place that can now take all the things that you've learned and help other people come to those same realizations. And I remember where I was and who it is and the exact moment in time, because it was like a slap in the face, because it was not what I was looking for. That wasn't the answer I was looking for.
Yeah.
I was looking for some validation and
You're
some
doing good.
justifications to
hard.
the shit that I was already doing.
Yeah.
So then it just put things into perspective. Like, okay, I'm not working on those things, but thank you, as hard as that was to hear, because now I'm going to.
Yeah. It reminds me of a guy named Garrett White who mentored me. Yeah. And he said that there's like the hustler and then there's the king. And the hustler just like, that's all they do. They just go more effort, go, and they're just selling. But at some point, you're going to need to graduate from the hustler to the king. And the king, they're not just, I mean, they work hard or whatever, but they're strategic, and they build systems, and they build other people, and they're building an empire is the way he puts it. They build a kingdom, where the hustlers they're always just selling. They're always just, transaction. But at some point you have to and I think that's what Jason's really good at, is he's more the strategic mind. He's looking at things from different angles and different perspectives. I think he got that a lot faster than I did, and more natural with that stuff. And that's why I love working with Jason. But I do think it's super important. And it's you can go, I mean, I love door to door. I think it's awesome, but I don't want to mirror the 50-year-old dude who's just knocking door to door, and he's 50 and he's been doing it for 20 years. I like door to door. It's a great opportunity, but I want to up level, and I want our people to up level. You continue to grow, and the goal is not to be the best door to door salesman. The goal is to be the best door to door salesman, and then move and continue to work your way up, and that way you have more impact. So
love that.
But there's the thing that I just would stop there is just because I think a lot of our listeners are door guys, is there's this fine balance. You see one of two people. You see the people that come in and they want to hustle, and they're going to hustle their way forever, or you have the other people that don't want to hustle, but they want to skip the hustle step to try and become the king. And you have to do both, right? At least in my experience, a lot of the guys I see that come in that want to skip the first step, they struggle because
there's where our opportunity is as leaders.
Yeah.
Is to help put things into perspective, because there's no skipping. There's no easy button.
Nope.
And it's almost like they get the cart before the horse. And this happens a lot, especially in today's day and age, where they're seeing all the success and Instagram and the watches and shoes and Gucci print shit.
You're a big Gucci guy, aren't you?
I'm not.
Love Gucci. I know what we're buying.
Could have fooled me.
No, this shirt I think is 4 years old, and I've got 4-year-old pants on right now. I'm not a Gucci guy. I'm not a watch guy. I drive an F-350, and to me, it's about the journey and the leadership and the impact. And if you can take somebody that has maybe some skewed goals like that and help put things into perspective for them, you truly want to make an impact, or maybe they haven't even thought about the impact yet. You truly want to become a millionaire? Let's start there, because most people are not to that point yet. They want to become millionaires, but they're not quite sure how to get there. And they're always talking about the next thing, and they're going to do day trading, and they're going to do crypto, and they're going to invest in real estate. It's listen, there is a way for you to do those things. Absolutely. But you truly want to increase your skills and your ability to make income, start focusing on how you can impact other people's lives. And you can do that through leadership. And there's no skipping over the work that's going to be necessary for you to become a leader, because you got to have credibility as a leader. And if you think you're leading, but nobody's following you, you heard this one? You're just going for a fucking walk, buddy. So leadership is it's a huge emphasis at my company. For me, I know it was a big pain point, because I was not a leader, and I lacked all of the things to be a good leader. But I wanted it so bad that I went and took the steps that were necessary to become a leader. And I read the books, and I went through the reps with my people. And I burned a lot of bridges. I did it wrong a lot. And now, I want to build an organization that embodies leadership and encourages people to not just be a freaking hustler, but to learn how to make an impact, and to have difficult conversations with people, and to develop a team, so then you can pass those same things off and impact people's lives forever.
What are some of the things that you like to teach your people when becoming a leader?
The difficult conversations is one of them. I've got an up-and-coming leader in my company. He was a top performer, and he's one of those guys that unless you put things into perspective for him, he'll just hustle his ass off forever. He's just built that way. And when he started dabbling in leadership and developing a team, he was lacking the experience of being able to, first of all, have patience with people. Yeah. I'm sure you guys have got to experience this with high performers, is they lack patience with people. It's why can't these guys just figure it out? This is what I did. It ain't that freaking hard. It doesn't work like that. 90% of people are not going to be like you, or not even close. There's a reason why you are where you are and everybody else is where they're at, because it's something that's different. And now you've got an opportunity, and you are very uniquely qualified, if you can point it in the right direction, to help people understand what it's going to take. And he wasn't holding people accountable. He wasn't setting expectations. He wasn't giving clear instruction about what it was going to take for them. Because all this stuff, he processed it in 30 seconds. And it takes everybody else a whole lot longer.
Yeah.
And now you just got to take all that information, and you got to find a way to deliver it where you're going to be able to get the most out of them and help them see something in themselves that they wouldn't have otherwise seen without your help. That's freaking leadership. It's influence. And I've freaking loved just teaching people that type of perspective.
Yeah.
Because I had to go through all that same type of shit.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I blew so many people out of the water. I was practicing on a lot of people.
Getting your reps in.
I was getting my reps in.
I love that. Yeah. Patience with people. And I also think like it's super important. I call it like the leader and the manager. And I think it's really easy. I think most people, when they get into leadership or management, they kind of have they're either a stronger manager or they're a stronger leader. Mm-hmm. Leader is the one that has influence. They're the example. People look up to them, where the manager is the one that has all the SOPs, all the systems. But if you really want to scale, I know you have to be a great leader. You have to have influence. You have to cast a vision. You have to show people it's possible. But if you have no systems and no way to set expectations systematically, no way to train people, and no structure, you're going to struggle. So I always call leadership's the heart, management is the backbone, and you have to have both to be super strong. Mm-hmm. And that guy sounds like he's probably a pretty strong leader, and he just needs some systems in place. Hey, dude, why don't we create a slideshow or something that you train your people? Yeah. Why don't we do a weekly meeting every week? And I don't know, I think normal stuff so people can know what to expect.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
And I'm sure you've got to experience this too, that not all top performers are cut out for leadership.
Yeah.
Because they're lacking the patience, even though they could establish some SOPs and be able to have some strategy for their people to follow, they're lacking the patience to sit down and put it into place. They would rather just go hustle their asses off because they know they can go make, why would I put time into that when I know I can go make more money doing this? Yeah. Have you heard that before? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's hard to get through to people like that. They're just not quite ready yet. But there also are some that are coachable and they are ready. And as soon as you're coming from a place of just pure intention and you want the best for them and you're not doing it selfishly, people start paying attention differently.
Yeah.
And they're taking your messaging differently. So this guy he's proven to be a top performer, but also as I've planted those seeds with him, he's also proven to be really good at implementing the systems and processes that he doesn't have to create out of thin air. That's my job as the CEO, to make sure that we have all those things put together for him to follow. And now you just got to implement them.
You just got to implement them. Love that. What is one thing you're working on right now to be a better leader? What's okay, this is an area I want to get better at.
It's always the difficult conversations.
When you talk about that, what does that mean for you? Difficult conversations. You're saying it's hard for you to go and you try to avoid the difficult conversations. Mm-hmm. And so it's more you want to just have those faster.
You got to get them out of the way faster. I'm sure you guys have got to experience this, that there are difficult conversations that need to happen, and we avoid them. And I'll bet both of you have a handful of difficult conversations that you need to have with either your spouse or your kids or somebody on your team right at this very moment.
You don't know Jason. He hits them done quick. He gets them handled. I'm just joking, kind of.
I need to learn to have the mentality of Jefferson, the calm, cool, collected, but the difficult conversations come easy to me. But
yeah,
I still have many, many things to learn.
And then also, so in combination with having the difficult conversations, it's handling them tactfully.
Yeah.
And producing a positive outcome.
Yeah.
Is there a structure that you follow, or you're gonna have a difficult conversation with me? Uh-huh. Okay, I need to talk to River about X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. First thing I do is I open my notes app, and I write River on the title.
Okay.
And then I start making all the bullet points. So I go straight to this place because as a CEO, you got to have a lot of these conversations. whether it's with your leaders or your ops team or, anybody in the company that's struggling. Today it was one of my screeners. I got to have a difficult conversation with him. And the first thing I did is I pulled up my notes and I made a list. Here's the outcome that I would like to have. I, of course, want the best outcome every single time. Early on in leadership, that was never even a thought. It's like as soon as he needed to hear from me, it's happening right now.
You mother.
And I'm going to let him have it.
So write the name. What's my intention? What's the outcome I want?
Uh-huh.
But is there any better feeling than when you have a difficult conversation and you leave them feeling like it was a win?
That's what I'm going for.
That's my favorite thing in business, which is what you're telling me. What you're doing is by outlining it and defining your intention. Because I was the same way. I kind of laughed because you said something a little bit ago about those were all your, what'd you say? That was your practice run when you were pissing all these people off. And I think I've had a lot of practice runs with hard conversations because I'm the same way. The reason I became good at it is because whenever I thought it needed to happen, I just would do it. And it was like, and the thing that I've had to learn is that's good.
Yeah.
But the timing is also super important with hard conversation. It's like if the person you're ready to have a hard conversation with, maybe they just got off the phone with their spouse and their spouse yelled at them, it's probably not the right time. You want to tiptoe in the water and be like, let's have this tomorrow.
Fill it out, yeah.
Because you'll be able to get a lot better response out of someone if they're in the right place to accept it.
I love that.
So
yeah, when I say difficult conversations, there's a lot more context that you need to get about the journey that you're going through as a leader. And it's not just about having them when they need to happen, but all these other things that Jason's talking about that go into making sure you can have a positive outcome. You got to vet them out. You got to make sure that this is the good time, that you've already put in the work necessary to make sure that you're going to go into this thing regulated and calculated in what you're going to say. Were you going to say something?
No, sorry. I'm just agreeing with you.
And in business, it's so important as you're developing a team and you're setting expectations and you're growing at a rapid pace that everybody's on the same page and that you have good relationships and that you're setting proper expectations. So yeah, early on it was much different. And because of all those experiences, it's led me to continue to always want to improve at my timing, at my empathetic type of approach, at getting a positive outcome and leading things in a positive direction and making sure that it's always a win-win. Because everything in life really revolves around those conversations.
Yeah.
With your spouse, with your kids, and in business.
Do you have like a system where you set up like one-on-ones with people and this is where you're having them? Or is it more like, no, you'll just schedule something with them or call them up?
When it needs to happen. I'm very similar. I've always done it when it needs to happen, but I haven't always been very tactful at it. And after I've effed it up a lot of times, I've just learned that I need to be more tactful.
Yeah.
And so I do a lot of one-on-ones. I have a regular cadence with all my leadership where every 2 weeks I'm meeting with them and we're just covering the basics, and usually things are really good and we're just talking about where we could be better and the things that we're putting out for each other. But then if the performance, like the behavioral type of stuff needs to happen, it's getting done. Like today, very latest tomorrow after I've had a little chance to think about it.
Love it. To wrap this thing up, I want to hear what's your vision for JKR moving forward? It's obviously been really successful. Things are going well. I'm sure your lifestyle is to a place where you want it to be. So you don't need to grow is what I'm saying. From my perspective, you could disagree, but what is the vision moving forward and why is that important to you?
It's an internal thought process that I go through constantly. Because for me to stay, it's almost like for me to stay passionate, I need to keep growing.
Yeah.
Because we're already in a place that I'm proud of and I feel good about. We just started 6 years ago. Actually, it was on the 22nd. It was 3 days ago was our 6-year anniversary. So things have gone really well in a very short period of time. But on the energy that I get from business and in leadership, and for me to pour this much energy, it has to continue to go up and get better and to improve. So 24 million in sales last year. We got a goal to do 60 million this year.
Woo!
And we got
Love that.
a goal to do,
Sorry for your ears. Forgot.
in the next 5 years, we want to be a $1 billion company.
In the next how many years?
5 years. So it's big, crazy. I didn't hear him.
He said, "Good luck."
Someone at the hall yelled, "Good luck."
Yeah. He was walking around like this. Did you see his neck? He must have slept funny last night.
There's a lot of leadership that's going to need to be, like a lot of growing that needs to happen. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's big, silly, crazy, ridiculous.
Nationwide?
Nationwide.
Is that the goal?
Uh-huh.
Sweet, dude.
Yep. But that's what's going to keep me coming back for more. And it's not just about the goal or about the money. And I have money, but I'm not a material possessions type of guy. It's like the money and the houses and the cars and the watches and the airplanes and shit. That's not me.
Yeah.
You'll see me 5 years from now with a much larger company, whether it's $1 billion or not, still living a very similar lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's just because that's who I am.
I think that's more natural than the other side, though.
Yeah.
Like, I think most people that, I don't know, I've been around a lot of wealthy people, and I think most of them, like, I don't think, I guess what I'm saying is I don't think most people are trying to grow a business. Like, I don't think most people are trying to grow $1 billion business. We think it's for the money, or a lot of people think it's for the money, but it's really, it's more about like doing it to continue to have that growth. Like what you're saying is like, it's what keeps us passionate. It's what keeps you coming back.
Yes.
It's more about, for me at least, and I would, from talking to you, I think from you as well, is it's like, hey, think about all the people that JKR is going to bring on that journey with you. Mm-hmm. Like I had the opportunity of meeting one of your employees the other day before I even met you.
Yeah.
And I talking to the guy, and he was just all the good things to say about you, all the good things to say about his job. And I was like, that's freaking, like, I've known you from afar for a variety of reasons, but like, it was really cool to me that like all the good things he had to say. And like, you've obviously changed this dude's life. He's here in St. George because of this job. And so I think it's way more about that. Like that brings me way more satisfaction is when somebody from our organization texts me and says, "Hey dude, you've changed my life." Or this opportunity's changed my life. And I think that's why people like you want to grow bigger. It was at least for me, at least I shouldn't say you, cause I actually shouldn't speak on your behalf, but it's like, man, how many lives are you going to impact over the next 5 years to do that? And how many people are going to be JKR is literally going to change their life for years and years to come because of the impact you're desiring to have.
Yeah. Those are some of those important things that I try and point out to people about leadership, and going from a hustler to a king is learning about the lives that you can impact. It's, we've all been there. We've all gone through it about the selfish approaches, but then you start to get this perspective on life that for me to continue to show up and offer this type of energy for as many hours a day as I do, it's going to have to continue to keep firing me up. And the impact in people's lives, the other thing that excites me about being a $1 billion CEO is the version of myself that's going to be required for me to reach that level. I've come a long ways in the past 6 years, which is awesome. I'm proud of everything I've done. I don't celebrate it a ton because I'm always focused on the next thing. And for me to become a $1 billion CEO, man, I may be the same person, have a very similar lifestyle, but the levels that I'm going to have to go up to be able to be that type of leader, that excites me.
I love that. I think that fits right into the name Arrows Out. If you listen to what Jefferson's talking about, he's talking about, I'm focused on the outward. I'm focused on other people. I'm focused on the impact. I'm not focused on making my lifestyle better or not making his lifestyle better. It's Arrows Out focused. It's Arrows Out focused. You don't need to do it for your personal needs anymore. At some point, you've graduated beyond that, and you have to find something that keeps you coming back that's beyond just getting a new dirt bike or whatever. Mm-hmm. Is there any final thoughts to wrap this thing up?
Well, I just want to say thanks for coming on. It's great to get to know you better. I met you the other day, and it's kind of interesting because I've known about you for whatever reason for years and kind of been oddly cheering for you from the sidelines. unbeknownst to you, like for whatever River and I have had a lot of conversations about you. Wow. I don't know why, but for some reason you've just been like on the radar for both of us, I think for a long time, and our wives are like third cousins or something. And I kind of know you through that, but or have known of you through that. And so like, I just think it's really cool to get to know you, and congrats on all the success and what you've been through this far, and I'm stoked for your future, man. Thanks a ton for sharing.
Well, appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a blast. It's better to get to know both of you guys better. And the final message for me is about the leadership aspect of this thing. I just did a podcast earlier today with Jeff, and we start with sales, but we always end with leadership. It always seems to lead to leadership because it's just it's a philosophy of mine. I eat, sleep, and breathe leadership and the things that have gotten me this level of success. And I want other people to be able to reach a level of success and have proper expectations set about how you're going to get there. And it's not by hustling more.
Yeah.
Like, that's where it starts, okay? You're going to have to put in some long hours. You're going to have to develop your skills. But you truly want to do something special with your life, it's not about the cold plunges. It's not about being, having the crazy discipline in all these areas like David Goggins does or anything like that. But you can get really focused on how you can make an impact in your particular field as a leader. And you can take those experiences and that level of confidence in your ability and the things that you've gone through and pass it on to other people to help them with their belief that they can also do something special. Leadership, it all starts and ends with leadership. It's a passion of mine. And if you haven't already started looking into it, I suggest that you do.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for spreading your wisdom, sharing your wisdom. Thanks for your time. You do a lot of content on Instagram. What's your handle so people can go and follow you?
At Jefferson K. Rogers. There is no D in my last name, like other Rogers. And I'm across almost every single social media platform, but that's where I'm the most active. You can find me on Instagram at Jefferson K. Rogers.
Awesome. Go shoot them a follow. Guys, share this episode with some friends that got some value. You have something to share? Go share this episode with friends that can get some value from this as well. Be positive and confident in all that you do. And most importantly, go be abundant. Peace and love. Bye-bye.